Hello guys, and welcome back to Microsoft Intune Training. In this session, we will see device limit restrictions and device platform restrictions. So let's get into it. As you can see, I'm on the Intune portal right now, and the first thing is I will go on homepage. Then under devices, Windows, enrollment. These are the couple of settings that actually is equally important as other settings like we did in the autopilot configuration, like enrollment status page, deployment profile, right? So similarly, these two settings are equally important. So the first thing that we have to configure is device limit restrictions. All right, so it depends on your organizational requirements. What it does is, let's go inside this tab and I will explain you what this does basically. So we'll go to all users and properties. Alright, so if you can see there is not much configuration in this section. There's only one configuration, one setting that you can see, which is device limit restriction, and you get edit and device limit is 5. You can read the description as well. It says this is a default device limit restriction applied with lowest priority to all users regardless of group membership. What it means by this is that the device limit restriction is, right now device limit says 5, which means one user, one Entra ID can only enroll 5 devices, right? So if they want to enroll more than 5 devices with the same Entra ID, they won't be able to do it. So that is the reason why this restriction is one of the most important features within Intune. If your organization has a requirement where you allow one Entra ID to be able to connect only one device, you can go to edit, and under device limit you can change it to 1, or by default it's 5. You can change it to whatever number you want based on your requirement. So I'll leave with the default one, and the maximum in the Intune portal you can go to is 15. So per user can only enroll 15 devices. But in case you bring in the fleet of devices and your IT department wants to run 100 of devices through autopilot, right? So in that case, they don't want to involve the actual users. They might want to try one user ID to run through all the devices, to run the autopilot on all the devices, right? Because they would not like to do back and forth with every user IDs, every user's Entra ID, and then sign in with and look for the password. Too much of a hassle. So in order to customize the number of like the device restrictions, I'm showing you guys what you can do. You can go to Entra ID, and under Entra ID you will look for something called devices. As soon as you reach devices, you will see a tab called device settings. You will click on device settings. Alright, so right now users may join device to Entra ID. We don't have to touch any of those settings. You can see this setting here. It says maximum number of devices per user. This is the default one, which says 50. You can customize it to any specific number you want, or you can simply leave it to unlimited if you want that as well. If you have a fleet of device that you want to reduce the hassle of looking for Entra ID of all the users and running the autopilot one by one, you can utilize one Entra ID by customizing this setting to unlimited, and you can utilize one Entra ID. It says designates the maximum number of devices a user can have in Microsoft Entra. If a user reaches this quota, they will not be able to add additional devices until one or more of their existing devices are removed. So this is pretty clear. So I'll leave it 50. We are not doing anything to this. I'm not changing the setting. So this was one of the most important settings that you might come across when you are in the organization. So I will leave this to 5 as well, because that's the default number. So this was about device limit restrictions. And now I will show you something called device platform restrictions. This is also one of the most important settings. Device platform restrictions, as you can see, we have 4 sections here: Windows restrictions, Android restrictions, macOS restrictions, and iOS restrictions. We will only look at Windows restrictions. So we'll click on the default setting here, says all users. Just click on that and properties. So now you can see under properties you have platform settings, Android Enterprise. Let me expand this. It says Android Enterprise Work Profile, Android Device Administrator, iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and Windows MDM. So what this does, let's go on the enrollment restrictions description. It says this is the default device type restriction applied with lowest priority to all users regardless of their group membership. What this setting does is, if I click on edit, if I change our Windows MDM to block, right? Windows MDM will be blocked. Or if I change personally owned devices to block, this feature will block personal devices that are trying to connect to the organization's Entra ID. So any personally owned device will not be able to connect to the Intune, even if they have the license or everything assigned. If it's a personal device, they won't be able to do it. So this blocks the personally owned device. This is the restriction that your organization might want to use, because in many of the organizations they only have Windows and maybe Android devices, but they want to block iPadOS and macOS as well, so they can block from here. And simply, if they only have Windows and rest of the things, they can actually block from here as well, personally as well as platform wise, they can block it. If the organization only has macOS, for example, they can simply leave it to allow and block all the other devices from here, platform wise as well as personally owned device. So this is also one of the most important settings that we have within Intune console. I hope you guys understood device platform restrictions and device limit restrictions in this video. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.